Welcome to Outreach, Food Pantries, and Beyond. My name is Carl Hetler. I'm a local pastor here in South Bend. I've been pastoring a couple different churches here for the past over 13 years. Most recently, Broadway Christian Parish, but before that, Epworth Memorial, and before that, the Associate at Evangel Heights. I currently work for the city of South Bend, and I'll talk a little bit more about the work that I'm doing there, coordinating churches and other service providers. I want to introduce my two other pastors who are going to be sharing about their church experiences of outreach, and then we'll get a chance to hear from each of you. I'd like to at least hear what city you're a part of and what your role is, whether you're a pastor or laity, and if you have a specific role of outreach that you're focused on. But first, Pastor Vicki Van Neville, would you like to introduce yourself?
I didn't know I was going to go first, or I would have unmuted myself earlier. Hi, I'm Pastor Vicki Van Neville, and currently serving as lead pastor for South Bend First. And actually, we're referring to ourselves as First Northwest because we've brought together, again, as outreach, brought together two churches, Northwest United Methodist as well as First United Methodist. And I have been there for 4 years, but I've been serving in the North District for 23 years.
Wonderful. And Pastor Amanda Mosing.
Hi, good morning. I'm Pastor Amanda, and I'm the pastor at Elkhart Calvary. I've been serving here since July 2024. I'm originally from Indiana, Mishawaka. Albright's my home church, but I'm actually a member of West Ohio. Most of my pastoral career has been in Ohio, in the Ohio Episcopal area.
Great. And now briefly to hear from each of the people that are joining us, just give us some context for who we're speaking to, and understand, we'll get a chance later on to talk about some of the outreach efforts you're doing. But just briefly, name, city, and your role there. We'll start with Joyce. If you want to unmute. You're unmuted, Joyce. All right, we'll come back to Joyce if she's able to speak. Anne, welcome, Anne. You want to unmute? Hit the unmute button, Anne. There you go.
Okay. I'm a former pastor of Broadway Christian Parish.
That's right.
And currently serving Ambia United Methodist.
And where is that located roughly? I'm not familiar with it.
I'm in the farthest southwest corner of the North, whatever it is, district.
Okay. So along the Illinois border?
Yep. We're spitting distance.
Okay, great. Very good. Dan Kernigas.
Hi, I'm Dan Kernagus. I serve as a laity, also in charge of on our council as outreach. Church of Four Seasons is located in Winfield, Indiana, which is a township of Crown Point.
That's what I guess, probably near the Chicago area too, given your sweatshirt. So thanks, Dan. Glad you could join us. Let's go Janet next.
I'm Janet Stout. I'm from the Winnemac First United Methodist Church, and I'm actually the treasurer.
Wonderful. Very good. Glad you could join us. John Bowen.
Hi, I'm John Bowen. I'm at Faith United Methodist, and I'm on the governing council.
Very good. And in what city is that Faith?
I'm from the Elkhart Goshen area.
Great. Wonderful. Laura?
I'm Laura Blackford. I'm from Plymouth First United Methodist Church in Plymouth, Indiana, and I recently started being the chairperson for the Social Concerns Committee at our church.
Great. Let's see. Stephanie? If you're able to unmute, go ahead.
Yeah.
Yep.
I'm Steph Miller. I'm from Granger Good Shepherd, in Granger, Indiana, but I have started volunteering outside in other UMC churches. So I don't really know if I have a role at my church or not. I'm kind of new, but it's a small church, so we all just kind of do what we need to do.
Wonderful. Bonnie,
Yes, Akron United Methodist Church in Akron, Indiana.
where's that located?
Akron, we're in Fulton County,
Okay.
close to Rochester, and we're between Rochester and North Manchester on 14.
All right, great. And do you have a role there, Bonnie?
Yes, I'm head of missions. Plus, I also work with our United We Stand Ministries of Akron, which is a group of 8 churches, and I help with the um, writing grants and very involved with our food pantry.
Great. Very good. All right. It looks like Joyce had to drop off. So I think we've got everyone then. 9, 10. Yep. All right. Very good. All right. I am going to share my screen to give us some information here. Why do I not?
I
Where's
was
the
wondering if
sharing screen buttons? Yeah, go
Eva
ahead,
had to
Vicky.
if Eva had to give us permission to do that prior to, because I'm sure she did not, other than Marty.
She did, but it's not. Oh, there we go. Okay, I found it. Okay, very good. All right, so I'm gonna, this is sort of our outline for today. I will put this information in the chat, also this link, and I'll make sure it gets sent out also to everyone who registered for this Google document. So if you want to click on these links or get in contact with Pastors Vicky, Amanda, or myself, our information's on there also. I want to do some review from past. This is, I think, the 4th year that I've led the outreach discussions for Leadership University. So I'm just going to do some brief review because I don't think any of you have been on the calls before. So just want to highlight a couple of things, and they'll get a chance to hear from Vicki and Amanda about some of their outreach ministries that they're doing. And then we have some more discussion topics that we'll look at. So 2 things I want to show. One is de-escalation cards. This is something I developed when I was at Broadway because we realized that we were often having to ask people to leave the property. If you're not familiar with Broadway, for decades, they've been doing unhoused ministry and outreach. That's been a hot breakfast, showers, laundry services, clothing pantry, food pantry, advocacy services. And we would often see that sometimes people, because of their mental health challenges, because of substance use, because of just the trauma and the difficulty of being unhoused or being in poverty, people would sometimes not follow the rules. They would threaten staff or other guests. They would break things. They would be belligerent or threatening. And we'd have to ask people to leave. And this fits in perfectly with what Marty was talking about change and what brings change, and helping allow not only ourselves to change, but help other people change. And making these de escalation cards is one example of the ways that we try to help people change. Uh, Historically, the practice had been to simply ban people for a day, for a week, for a month, as a way to punish them for breaking the rules. But that didn't help people change at all. It didn't help people learn what the problem was or learn new skills for how to handle when things are stressful, when they're upset, when things aren't going the way they want, when they're angry at others. And so I started making these cards that we would put on the tables, that we would talk about with people as a practical way to help them be able to develop some change. It was a key form of our outreach of wanting to not simply help people with physical needs, but help them have some of that change and develop qualities in their life. And so we use Psalm 23 to give it a scriptural basis and use some different de-escalation trainings and other self-care material that's being taught here in our community to develop these in a simple way. And so there's 2 slides. So this is the first half of them that I wanted to show you, just to see the different topics that we had, the different visualizations that we developed. So it would be very graphically easy to understand since literacy rates are sometimes low with the people that we work with. And then again, the scripture to ground it in a well-known passage from Psalm 23. And here is the other half of de-escalation cards that we developed. And this has become a very helpful way for us to work with people. And so, for example, we would have these out on the tables so that people would be reminded about things that they could do when they were stressed, when they were upset. We also would then use these if we had to ask someone to leave for the day. We would say it's not about how long you have to be gone as a punishment, but how many times you would need to meet with me outside of Broadway to go over these and work on developing a care plan before it was safe for you to come back inside into community inside the building. And so for some people, it was one time. For some, it could be 2 or 3 times. And what was great to see was that people who really wanted to grow and learn new skills were willing to come and meet with me outside, were willing to get some basic services outside, like a meal to go or a change of clothing or their mail. And then they would be willing to develop a care plan, identify which of these 7 were most meaningful to them, which ones did they want to practice, and identify what were the things that they were thankful for, what were the different body motions that they were going to do to stretch out, who was the friend at Broadway that they had that they would connect with when they were feeling stressed or overwhelmed or on edge. And this became a great way for us to develop that outreach and to be able to help people change and develop quality skills. What was interesting that we found was this was not only helpful for our guests, but this also became helpful for our staff and volunteers. That this became a proactive thing that we did with those who were doing the outreach ministries, who were leading them, who themselves could feel frustrated at times if they aren't being appreciated or if people keep asking for the same things. For people who would get discouraged and overwhelmed by their own stresses in their lives that they would bring to the ministry that they were doing. And so we would also share these with our staff and volunteers so they could develop these skills and identify proactively how are they going to handle the stressful situations that they were dealing with. And so this is one example of the things that we were doing to be able to help care for people and help be able to do outreach and to see that change that Superintendent Marty was talking about of helping people be found, made whole, and set free from the things that were causing them to be banned or not receive services from other locations. The second document that I wanted to show you is a map that we developed of resources. This is the downtown South Bend area that extends from First Northwest UMC at the top all the way down to Broadway Christian Parish at the bottom, and lots of ministries and programs and services in between. I first developed this about 5 years ago, coming out of the pandemic, when we saw a lot of new people who were unhoused, who didn't know about services. And now that I'm working for the city, we've continued to use this as a helpful way to connect people to resources, to allow them to know what's available and what is there for them. This has been a great outreach tool in part because it helps us see all the variety of services that are available. We had both this visual maps that people could know what streets to take and where things were located. But then second is a description of all of those different programs that we grouped among meal sites and shelters and public spaces and mental health resources. Because again, outreach is more than just food pantries. Food is one practical way that we can help people, but there's lots of other ways that people need help. And this became a helpful resource that we could give out to people when they were leaving Broadway for the day. And I know the soup kitchen at First Northwest has this also, and all these services in between have these different ways to be able to connect people with services and programs. And one of the helpful things that this does is it helped us at Broadway, and I'm sure Pastor Vicki would agree, that we're not always open and we're not doing everything at our churches. And so be able to acknowledge, here's what we provide at Broadway or First Northwest, and we have limits to that. There's certain hours that we're open and there's only certain things that we do. And it can be hard and it can feel difficult to have to tell someone, sorry, we're getting ready to close, you need to leave, or sorry, we can't help with that need that you have. But to have a resource like this was very helpful to be able to connect people with other options of where they could go after they were leaving our location. If there were other needs that they had for a warm place to go, for other services that they needed, for help with finding shelter. This became a helpful resource for us and that we continue to use to connect people with the different resources. This helps us know our boundaries. And then also, as Superintendent Marty talks about, it helped us build a stronger community one with another, to be able to know what different services people were providing, to be able to learn about their changes. As we've dealt with this cold weather the last couple months, there's sometimes when places are closed, when Broadway has been closed or the library has been closed, and Pastor Vicky especially has expanded her soup kitchen hours to welcome in people when she's aware that other places aren't open. And so not only has it helped us be able to know what's available, but it's helped us work together and build a stronger community and support one another. We also have the opportunity to be able to work together when we have people who need extra grace, who are really difficult, to be able to talk about people with common issues that will show up at multiple locations. Maybe it's the dogs that they have, and how do we handle the dogs that they want to bring into the building? Maybe it's their mental illness and they need specific support and have certain resources that we know work well for them. So we're not only sharing the details, but we're also talking about the people that we're struggling with so we can provide better care and support for them. This has been a helpful tool that has allowed us to do that. So I want to pause there before I turn things over to Pastor Vicky, let her share about her ministry to see if there's any questions that people have about either of those resources that talk about helping people change individually or helping our community grow stronger together. All right, great. Glad that's all straightforward. Um, Let me share my screen
Hey,
again.
Carl,
Yeah.
before you go away, do you want to talk a little bit about, you mentioned about our folks that come in with dogs. You want to kind of mention what we're all trying to do
Oh,
to be
sure.
able to
Yeah.
accommodate that, which is something new only in the last little bit.
Yeah. So yeah, the example of people with pets, we see that that is hard for them to come in and get services because a lot of places for health and sanitation and just the setup, it's hard to have pets inside. The health department frowns upon it. And we know other people can sometimes be intimidated and scared. And so then either animals are tied up outside or have to wait for someone else, or someone has to wait outside for services to be delivered to them, makes it really difficult. And then also we know that people aren't coming into shelter at all because they have their pets. This winter we've got people with dogs. They're trying to stay in tents and survive out there because they don't want to leave their fur babies alone. And we knew that happened some with cats last year also, that we were seeing that challenge. So within the city, we have a animal rescue program. And so I'll share with you the sample document. Thanks, Pastor Vicky, for mentioning that we developed some guidelines to think about how can we better care for people that have pets. And so we worked with the SBARC and some agencies to talk about what we could do to help provide care and outreach for them. And so our animal control facility would be able to provide carriers for people so to transport them if they needed temporary shelter, and also have carriers on site if people wanted to be able to have their pet come inside and stay warm while they receive services temporarily. And so they provided that and a disinfectant spray also, so they would stay healthy. And then we also developed a way for them to be able to do a safe harbor program. We envision people who find themselves suddenly unhoused. Maybe they lost their house, maybe they had a broken relationship, and so they suddenly lost their housing and they have resources, but they need a couple of days to figure things out. And so being able to provide temporary short-term shelter for someone who has experienced homelessness is one thing that we thought this would be helpful to do. The second that you can see there in the details is up to 7 days for someone who is chronically homeless, but during an extreme cold weather snap, maybe really recognizes that they need to come into a shelter, but wants their animals to be safe and doesn't want to lose their animal either, wants to be able to claim them back after up to a week period. And so those are those two groups that we have developed this program for. And you see a lot of the other details there about how we've set up donations so that we can help be able to fund this. Some of the challenges about microchipping, that if the animal's not registered to the person who's they're with, who says that they're the owner, that could create an issue. About certain health signs that we would cause us to have to intervene. And these are helpful things for us to be able to work out and identify. Ideally, we would have space in our shelters for people to bring their pets in with them, but that's not a reality. Or we'd have a separate shelter for people with pets. And so one of the things that we've had to do, and we'll talk about some of the financial constraints that we face with outreach, is think about how can we use existing programs, existing resources in the best way possible. We had to be creative and we had to make these connections. We had to earn the trust of SBARC, our animal control center, that they wouldn't get overwhelmed with lots of pets, that they understood what the limitations were and what the issues might be that would keep someone from getting their pets returned. And we had to talk with agencies about what their needs were and what they were seeing from guests on the street. So, to my knowledge, we haven't yet activated this program, but it's something that we've just put in place, like Pastor Vicky said, over the past month, and has been a way that we've tried to work together to meet this need that we see in the unhoused community and support them. Anything else, Pastor Vicky, you want to say about it?
No, I just think it's good because I think, as Marty talked about building new bridges,
Yeah,
this is one of
exactly.
these things that probably has really changed. And of course, right now it's exacerbated just because we're in such a deep freeze. But we're looking at ways to do things differently than what we've done in the past. So thanks, Carl.
Yeah, exactly. It's been a stream that we've known has been challenging for a while, and we haven't known a way to address it and help people out. I'll say what's been also great is the YWCA that provides shelter for domestic violence. They have their own veterinarian who is willing to house pets for longer, often up to 30 days, if people are escaping domestic violence, male or female, and can't bring their pet with them, to give them a safe place for their pet to stay while they receive shelter and healing and services. And so it's been great to learn about that program that I wasn't aware of. And actually, I've got a meeting this next week with a woman who's just started a program called Safe Paws, where she wants to be able to provide longer term care for unhoused people who have pets. And so it's been great that after taking this initial step, we've learned about other programs and other ways that are growing and people want to get involved and interested. So it's not just the bridge that we're building, but we're seeing other people trying to bridge this same river also, and then we can work together and share what we're doing. In some ways, if you want to use the illustration to make different kinds of bridges, that there's different types. You might have a rope bridge, a pedestrian bridge, a car bridge. All those bridges have different purposes and serve different groups of people covering the same river. And so it's been encouraging to see how we can work together to figure out the different bridges that we're building and be able to meet that need. So thanks for bringing that up.
Well, and those kinds of things are so important because we, more than we would like to, talk with folks who won't get out of a domestic violence situation because of their pet, because they have nowhere to go with their pet, or they're worried and they can't leave it behind because they're worried of their partner doing something to the pet. So,
Yeah,
yeah,
right.
all good stuff.
Exactly.
Well, anyway, now it's my turn, and I'm sure that most of you are aware that uh, South Bend First Northwest houses the South Bend Soup Kitchen, and also we also have a food pantry. The soup kitchen is open Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and the food pantry is open on Tuesday. And I want to, are you going to pop up some pictures I've got? Yeah. This was our crew. And again, this is kind of about maybe not necessarily building a new bridge, but doing an overhaul of the existing bridge.
Mhm.
We found ourselves in a place where the soup kitchen piece was really not meeting the needs of what we needed to be able to do. So we ended up closing down for the summer, which is not unusual. For many years, the soup kitchen would close down in the summertime for at least 2 weeks to do heavy duty cleaning and repairs. And that had not been done. I've been at First for 4 years, and we had not done it since I'd been there. So we had a lot of stuff that needed to be repaired. Carla, is that the only picture you have? I want to flip over. If you let me share my screen,
Oh, yeah.
I've got a couple shots. So let's see if I can. Sharing is not turned on.
Let me see if I have to make you a co-host.
Oh, yep, there we go. So this is just a panoramic view of what our kitchen area looks like now, bright and shiny and clean. And really is much more functional for us.
It's not sharing your screen, unfortunately, Vicky.
Oh, it's not?
No.
Well, let me try. Let me try this. We'll try one more time. Nope.
No, it's not letting me.
Anyway,
Sorry.
okay, well, that's okay. So we shut down this summer and we did a major overhaul of repairs. We've just recently, because it's taken so long, because everything takes long when you order it these days, we replaced the dishwasher. And we have also put in, or will be putting in this week, um, a washer dryer combo for us so that we're able to, folks aren't having to take home all our dirty towels and aprons and all of those things. We'll be able to wash that stuff there. Um, we serve both um, a Christmas meal and a Thanksgiving meal, um, and sometimes serving over 200 folks
Hmm.
at the soup kitchen. And last year's number, um, uh, even with the fact that we were closed for May, June, and July. And actually in August, we served over 8,000 folks. And then our food pantry, which is open on Tuesdays, also is has served over 10,000 people in this past year. And you all know what's going on with the cuts to SNAP benefits and other feeding types of programs by the Fed. And so it's making it much more difficult. But we are very blessed that we've got, yeah, and here's a picture that Carl is showing, pretty much a typical day down in the soup kitchen, where folks sit. We try to working on trying to keep things de-escalated,
Hmm.
try to have a lot of space between tables so people can, if they don't like the way you look today, they can move to the back of the room or somewhere to kind of keep tensions down. And and as Carl said, we have done good things. We now have an undercover security person that is with us for Soup Kitchen Days, and he is educated in de-escalation, and it's been great because it takes the pressure off the volunteers in the soup kitchen to have to do that. They still know how to de-escalate and do those things, but at least we depend on Jay to do that. And we try not to kick anybody out. The one thing that we absolutely will not tolerate is if somebody is passing drugs during the mealtime, and that still continues to happen. And so we're working with that. But that's one of those things. But those are the two programs that really have been um, the bulwark of our work at first. We started the soup kitchen back in the 70s. Um, and so, we've been doing this stuff a long time and it's taken off different iterations and things. But what I really want to talk about today is as we talk about outreach, some of the other things that we do as outreach. Many of you, or maybe you don't know, that we have what's called an upper room community ministry. We house about 40 guys that live up on the third floor in the church, and we house another 20 plus women who live in what used to be many, many decades ago, the parsonage next door for women. And we are able to it's a place, it's sober living. All the folks that are there have already gone through 30 days of detox when they come to us, so they should be clean. And some of them are there because they're court ordered to be there. Others are there because they really have no place to go. But we house AA meetings and NA meetings, and really our the building is used constantly in a recovery status. This is a picture of our women's house next door with them sharing a community meal together. And folks can stay up to 3 years for that. And this was a meal that we had after Christmas that both the men and the women gathered together. those that had no place to go with family or friends. And we served turkey and all of the fixins, and it was just a great time of socialization for those folks.
And I saw there's a great photo of you here also. You can share about that event.
This was the recovery event, and actually, I think this was the program that we did that we were um, honoring those folks that have been in recovery. And so we had some guest speakers. And so those are going to be programs that we do in the summertime. We also have a program that's sponsored by the church and the Upper Room to remember those folks who have lost their life to overdose. And every year it grows and grows. I think the first year I was here, we had maybe about 30 folks. I think last year we had about 75 or 80. Um, and again, we have guest speakers that come, and we encourage that recovery is possible. And so, we're really pleased to be able to use our facility in that way. One of the other things when I came is we've got this big, humongous building. And if you're not familiar with First Downtown, it is a huge building. 3 stories, huge sanctuary, um, and lots of space that at one time, when membership at first numbered in the thousands instead of the hundreds, um, we had rooms where Sunday school classes were going on and kids were around and all of those things. And you all know how things have changed for that. So we decided that we had the space and we wanted to reach out into our community and make what I call strategic partnerships um, with some folks. And one of the first ones that we did was a program called For the Good. And it is run by Pastor Carrie Badisher. And it's a program for moms who are basically kind of learning how to take care of their kids. And they may not have the skills and the ability to be able to apply for SNAP benefits or to apply for any other benefits. We're opened on Tuesday mornings. Mom comes with their kids. They have an area where the little ones can play, and they're mostly toddlers or infants. We feed them a meal. We've got computers set up, and we've got folks that work with them to help them file their papers to apply for SNAP, to apply for some of the other benefits that are available. And sometimes we have, 15 or 20 moms with kids up there, so it gets a little loud. But it's been a great program. We do not charge them for use of our space, but we consider it one of our ministries. The church helps them with formula and diapers and those types of things that Carrie hands out free to the folks who need them, as well as feminine hygiene products, which are very hard sometimes for women who are homeless to get. One of the other programs that we call one of our strategic partnerships is the Adaptive Arts Program, which is run by Jetta Cruz. And it's a program for those folks who have some form of mental or physical disabilities. And they learn to do musical things. They learn to play ukuleles. We also have a group called the Ukulele Ladies. They are women who are all over the age of 50, and they come and they practice once or twice a week, and they do concerts. And we've just given them a home. Jetta does theater work for those kids, and if you, I'll have to repost on our Facebook page the video that she made of our program, our summer program that we did with kids. It was about superheroes, and she videoed them, and they all talked about what their superpower was, and it was phenomenal. I'll repost it again if you want to come and look at our Facebook page to be able to see that. Another one of the programs that we've done to bring in as outreach is a program called Who's Your Mamas? It's a program run by area doulas. And so women can come in who want to be cared for during their pregnancy by a doula. And so they're taught and they learn about what to expect during their pregnancy, what to expect during their delivery. And then for the first year that the kids are out, there's also education that goes along with the parents. It's open to both men and women. And that's been a great thing. They also meet once a week in space that was sitting empty most of the time. And the last program that I want to talk about is South Bend Psychology. It's a partnership that we've made with them, and they do programming for us for marriage counseling, as well as that we're actually going to have a program that starts this week on the 4th. We are the first place. It's going to be at 4 different places to do some marriage strengthening courses. So if you're already married and you're maybe having some struggles, it's something that you can sign up for. But these are some of the ways that we've wanted to reach out more than on Sunday mornings, that have been, we've found to be very valuable for us because we can also, on the days that, especially like on Tuesdays when the food pantry is open, those moms that are here for the good can come down and get groceries and things like that. So it's been very good for us. But we have buildings that are empty, and I don't know what your facilities all look like, but we have space, and we don't always have to just rent those spaces out, because I think that this has given us more goodwill in South Bend,
Mm.
and advertising that we don't have to pay for. That these folks are saying, we're housed in the First United Methodist Church downtown, and they advertise our worship times and other programs that are going on at the church. So I think it's been very, very helpful for us. And I know I said at South Bend Psychology was going to be the last thing I talked about, but I do want to say one more thing about a program that the United Methodist Churches in South Bend and in the Michiana area have come together. We're called the South Bend Collective. And we are working on the project of trying to work with homelessness in the community. We have received a $75,000 grant over the next 3 years. We got 25 last year, and we'll be expecting another 25 this year. It's allowed us to hire a coordinator who actually works out of Broadway, because she works part-time at Broadway, and that is Kim Oldenburg. And her job basically is to work with some of the facilities. And Carl Scott, is that our job description, Carl? I have to
Yeah.
lean in because I can't see the job description for that. And we are getting very, very close to picking and having our first family that we're going to work with. And basically, what we're trying to do is to surround folks who maybe have gone through the program at Hope, gone through the program at the homeless center, and now they're ready to be out and have an apartment or have a house or something, but they are woefully unequipped to be able to know how to take care of a house, how to continue to, maybe they've gotten a job, but you would be surprised of how many folks don't realize that when you have a job, it means you have to go to work every day. And if you're not going to go to work every day, you have to call in and let somebody know that you're not going to come. The number of people that we talk to that say, well, I just figured they'd know if I wasn't there that I wasn't coming in. So we've got people that are going to work with folks on, what's it mean to be a good employee? Groups that we will have that will work on how to take care of your house. What happens when your toilet's plugged? How to use a plunger? Those types of things. And we're doing that basically bringing the collective is made up of South Bend First Northwest, Clay United Methodist, Evangel Heights United Methodist, Mishawaka First United Methodist, um, Broadway,
Broadway,
and
Leidig.
Leidig.
Yeah.
I think I got them all.
Yeah.
And
And
so
Grace.
and Grace. And we're still soliciting volunteers from those churches to make up these groups, because maybe you have a someone who's an accountant or knows good how to put together budgets and those types of things that can walk alongside people to help them do that. So you're going to be hearing a lot more about this in the coming weeks, probably, because I'm hoping that before the snow all melts and goes away, that we will have our first family. So, does anybody have any questions about some of these things? These are all things I think that all of our churches can offer and do.
Mhm.
All we need is volunteers, and of course, all we need is money. But there are lots of grants out there to help get you started. We are very fortunate that we've had a couple folks. I'll get to you in just a second, Ann.
Now, have you considered uh, calling the extension office for some of those things? Because they have a finance workshop and different things that they can teach.
Yes, and we've been working, like we've reached out like to First Source Bank to say, can you come and teach a program on budgeting or a program on how to balance your checkbook, those types of things. But yes, the extension office is a very good idea, and thank you.
Other questions that people have for Pastor Vicky? I was wondering, Vicky, with all the different programs, how are you getting some of your church members connected with these different programs so that they can help out or build relationships with some of the guests who are coming in?
Well, I think a lot of times, because like the soup kitchen, it's more than us just handing them a bowl of soup and going and sitting down. We have a couple volunteers that come. We've got a retired um, teacher who worked with special needs folks who also has a degree in sociology, who comes and he just kind of hangs out and he talks with folks um, and then directs them to me if there are people that need to be heard. And it's a smiling face. It's a conversation of how are you today? How's things going out there on the street? Those types of things. And we are constantly in our newsletters and our announcements that get made on Sunday mornings, trying to get more volunteers. Um, we've done pretty well. It was a little rough after we closed down the soup kitchen for those months, but now we seem to be up with volunteers. But we also, it's kind of like the upper room. We have the director who is Molly Kelly come in every couple months and talk to us about the things that are going on up there, as well as also talking about uh, Jetta comes a lot to talk about the adaptive arts program.
Yeah, I think that's the key thing. So it's more than just being a rental space or even like a
That's
free
correct.
space, but building those connections, like you said, so that people know about the spiritual and worship experiences at First Northwest, and
Correct.
also so your members and attendees can find ways to plug in and get connected and learn during your regular Sunday worship and other opportunities about what's
Yeah.
going on. So it really feels integrated, which is
Yep.
a good challenge because you've got lots of great
Absolutely.
things that are happening.
Yep.
Any other questions for Pastor Vicky before we hear from Pastor Amanda? I guess one other question I had for you, Vicky, was do you ever have to tell a group no, like it doesn't fit with your mission, overall vision? And how do you determine when a group isn't a good fit when they're asking to use some space there at the church?
We have not had that issue yet, that anybody, folks primarily have known. I guess they already are coming to me feeling like they're a good match for that. Now we did reach out to Memorial Hospital because we wanted to do some type of a birthing program, and that's how we got hooked up with Hoosier Mamas. They put a bug in one of the doula's ears,
Hmm.
and then they reached out to us. But these are some of these programs, like our partnership with South Bend Psychology. I think it's important for us because I know that if I have either a congregant or somebody who's downstairs for soup kitchen or whatever, who I believe needs some type of psychological assistance, I know that I can pick up the phone and call over there and I have some help.
Yeah.
Um, and so at this point in time, we haven't had to do that. I think a lot of it is to think about the fact that how is whatever it is you're doing serving our community in a way that especially helps the homeless or the underhoused, or those who are suffering from some type of an addiction. um, or just folks that are kind of down and out. You know, if you've got a program that you're helping them do that, that certainly fits well within our vision and mission to be able to be the light that of Christ that shines in downtown South Bend, where people know that we're a place where they can seek out help. And if we don't have that, we know I can, you know, as Carl talked about, we don't have to be the do all be all for everybody. And we all work together well. And there's no sense in us duplicating some of the things that we do. We don't do clothing ministry because we know we can send folks Monday through Friday down to Broadway to be able to get clothing if they need it. Now, we hand out socks, we hand out gloves,
Right.
those types of things, but you know that we know what each other does and does well, and we stay in our lane. So, and that goes along with, you know, St. Margaret's House is another place that both Broadway and First Northwest work closely with.
Yeah. I will say just from examples, I can think of one time when there was a foster care agency that wanted to host parenting classes, but they were very much traditional and only doing foster families that were male, female headed households and weren't willing to work with same gendered couples.
Yeah,
And so we
that
said,
would,
that's not a good fit for us. We can't
yes,
do that.
nor would it be a
Another
good fit for
case
us.
with someone who wanted to
Yeah,
start ministry and kind of ended up wanting to sort of take over the church. And so
yeah,
after a while, we said, this isn't good. You're meant to work with us, not try to take things over. And so we had
yes,
to ask them to leave. So I think there is that discernment also that we don't just say yes to everything, but we make sure it
no,
fits with our mission
no.
and that they support what we're trying to do as a faith community also is important. I see there's
Well,
one question from Stephanie in the chat. Are you hiring for this position right now? I'm not sure. A couple of minutes ago, sorry, I missed that, Stephanie. What position she was
are you
asking
talking for
about?
the coordinator position for the collective?
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, no, we've already hired somebody. It's Kim Oldenburg, and she just started. I think she's been with us now maybe 2 months.
Yeah.
So, and she's working out of. She's also part-time at Broadway. And Carl, I can never remember what her title is at Broadway either.
Advocacy coordinator.
Yes. So it was a good fit. And again, you know, we look as, partnering, of course Broadway is a part of our collective, but we don't have to recreate the wheel. We got somebody with some good experience. So
Great.
thanks for asking.
Okay, if there's no other questions, thank you, Pastor Vicky, for all the great work you're doing and sharing about some of those highlights. And I've added some more um, links in the chat in the document that I'll be sending out with some of the Facebook pages for some of those groups that she mentioned that are there on site. But I want to turn over to Pastor Amanda to share a little bit about the outreach you're doing there in Elkhart. And I've got your slides here loaded.
Thank you. So hello again, everyone. So a portrait of Calvary. We're on the west side of Elkhart. We're not a downtown church. We're not terribly far from downtown Elkhart, but we're not in the downtown. We are in a region, in a neighborhood with a disproportionately high level of poverty compared to the state level. We have a lot of neighbors who are either on house arrest or in prison. So they're single family, like just mom or just dad raising children. Um, so that just kind of gives you a glimpse of where we find ourselves. Calvary itself is a small church. We have about 40 to 45 people in worship on any given Sunday. So that just kind of gives you a glimpse of our frame of reference from where we're working from. So our main outreach is our food box. This food box sits right outside our front door. Um, and beside the food box, although it's covered now for the winter, we have a water fountain and bottle filler. We just installed that this past summer. It was partially funded by a conference matching grant for a Ministry with the Poor grant. We got that in part because a lot of our neighbors are unhoused or insufficiently housed and don't have access to clean drinking water. So that was one way that we are providing safe water for our neighbors. But back to the food box. So this food box is available all day, every day. It's regularly stocked a few times throughout the day. We have a crew on Wednesday mornings that prepares peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. They made 600 peanut butter and jelly sandwiches this past Wednesday. That's one of the favorite things people get from the box because we make it and they feel the love and care from those peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. You will note that it has 3 levels. It has a cooler sitting on its sides. It's not so relevant right now because it's cold, but in the summer, we will put ice packs in there if there's something that needs to be kept cold or if there's a hot food that needs to be kept hot. People are free to come and go and get items from the box. We monitor it in the sense that we have a Ring doorbell. You might notice that right above it on the right side. We use that to keep track of the number of people, family units that utilize the box. Or if we've heard about an altercation outside our doors, we'll go back through the footage. But people just come and go as they need throughout the day and all throughout the day, all throughout the night. Um, so we use most of our food is provided from community partners. We get food from Cultivate, from Feed the Children, from Jimtown Pantry, and Church Community Services here in
Explain what a cultivate is, Pastor, for people who may not be familiar with that
Sure.
program.
Cultivate is a food rescue program. So other like larger companies like I think Meijer, Whole Foods, I don't know if Kroger does it, Trader Joe's, their food that's near expiration or just at expiration, or even past in some cases, will be given to Cultivate. They also package meals. I'm not quite sure, Carl, where that food comes from, the ready-made meals.
Yeah, often it's either things close to expired or leftover from caterers and other large scale restaurants that will donate food and then they repackage and freeze it.
Yeah, thank you. So we get a delivery once a week from Cultivate. Both Cultivate and Feed the Children, we had to apply and sign up for that, particularly with Feed the Children. And that's a global company, ministry. You might have heard of Feed the Children. They have a market. They have a center here in Elkhart. And we can go twice a month and take and get as much food as we need. Same with Jimtown. Jimtown is spelled GYM because there is Jimtown um, in terms of a area here, a town. But it's connected. But anyway, so that's how most of our food is acquired. Um, we don't have a missions committee. We don't have budget money for our ministry, our feeding ministries, our outreach ministries here. We are funded through generous volunteers, friends, and our community partners. So if you'll go to the next slide, I'll share about our meals. So there are a lot of ministries in Elkhart, in the surrounding areas that have lunches or breakfast, even dinners, but most of them are during the weekday, Monday through Friday, whether it's every day or just some of the days. But there really aren't any programs or ministries that have anything on the weekends. So I believe it was in about 2023. I should have said that our food box ministry started in about 2021. We saw perceived need. We saw that our neighbors were hungry, and we decided to address it in that way. So with our community breakfast, we decided to have it on Saturday mornings to fill the gap because some of our neighbors weren't able to access a hot meal during the weekend. So every Saturday morning from 9 to 10, that's our gym. That is actually a picture of a community dinner, but it looks the exact same. We set up tables in our gym and we provide a hot breakfast. It varies every week based on what we get from Cultivate or Feed the Children or Gymtown, um, or what people have donated or purchased. But we provide a hot meal every single Saturday morning. We have roughly 40 to 60 people that attend that breakfast every week. Um, we also have a community dinner, which is on the first Thursday of every month. That used to be pre-pandemic a church community, like the congregation community meal, and people from the neighborhood were certainly welcome to come. Um, that kind of died with the pandemic, but we brought it back about a year ago this time, and it is actually a community meal. When I say community meal, it's less congregation, far more community. There are a lot of our neighbors that attend these meals. And again, there's a different menu every Thursday based on what people are able to provide or what we have gotten from our community partners. But it's a hot meal that people can come and enjoy. In the summer, we do picnics, we grill out, we open the gym doors, people can eat outside. And during the summer, we had anywhere between 75 to 200 at our community dinner. So you kind of run the gamut, but we always estimate more, and whatever doesn't get eaten is just packaged and put in our food box, so it never goes to waste. People are also allowed to pack to-go boxes at the end of the meal. Not, they can't package it during the meal, but at the end, if there's leftovers, people can take some home.
How did you deal with that change? Was there member pushback when you wanted to change the focus of the community dinner?
We do have congregants who attend it, and I would say largely no. Um, that's a growing edge for us here, and it has been a challenge of having the congregation attend the meals. They do attend the dinners. People will attend the dinners. We are also an older congregation. I would say the median age is 75 or older. Um, but there wasn't pushback. And granted, I wasn't here when the breakfasts were started. There was a little pushback around that. But not too much pushback about having the community dinners and it mostly being our community at large attending it. But
Great.
that is
Sorry.
a reality that when you start ministries, start outreach to people who don't look like you or who don't act like you, there's challenge. There's a lot of laying down internal learning and setting aside our biases so we can be good neighbors. It's hard work.
Yeah.
And much to Marty's point that you as the leader, whether you're the pastor or a lay leader, you have to do that internal work yourself in setting aside your biases before, you have to do the work yourself. You can't lead people where you're not willing to go yourself. Um, and also in that picture, we had
Oh,
people will randomly bring clothes. Feed the Children also has like boxes of clothing. You'll see like in the left side of the closet picture, all the similar looking red and blue shirts. We got those from Feed the Children. But anyway, this is literally a coat closet just inside the door on your way to the gym. It's mostly empty. So we just had the idea, hey, let's just put the clothes we have in this closet and people can take as they want. So that's been successful. We also get personal care hygiene products from Feed the Children, like deodorant, shampoo, um, body wash, stuff like that. We usually have a little table set out. People can take what they need. Um, so um, I think that's the extent of what I have to share. Are there any questions about what we do at Calvary?
Talk a little bit, Pastor Amanda, about how you've seen that impact worship, because I know some people have started coming to be a part of the worshiping community.
Yes. So I find that this work that we do is one that is of long-term relationship building and creating a safe place where people feel welcome, where they can find community. So we have two particular congregants who um, I would still describe them as insufficiently housed, but they started by attending our community breakfast on Saturday mornings. Um, and all of the leaders and volunteers at our breakfast are, um, we like to engage in conversation with the people who attend the breakfast, with our neighbors, just to do that work of saying, how are you today? Just being present with them. Um, but since I started here in July of 2024, two of those participants, attendees of the breakfast, have become regularly, they worship with us every Sunday, and they are very involved in our feeding ministries themselves. They will help make the breakfast, they'll help at the breakfast, at the community dinners. They will help prepare food throughout the week, making the sandwiches. So what they have found is a community of people that love and support them as they are. Well, we also do what we can to help them to move along with other, like St. Paul's United Methodist Church is very close to us, and they have um, more ministries even so than we do. But so we'll connect them with ministries there to help them get um, their social security card, to get whatever they need to help get themselves back on their feet. But that loving community, this place of, friendship, um, they has gotten them to the point where they feel safe and welcome and
Mm.
worship regularly. And the congregation on Sunday mornings has, been welcoming of them, which is a big step and big growth for the congregation as well.
Yeah.
And Amanda, that's so important. I mean, we see the same thing with our upper room folks. We're starting to see more and more of it. And, again, that's a transient community too. Some of them are there for a couple weeks and others are there for a couple years. But we're seeing more and more, and it's important that, we're modeling that behavior of being a welcoming community. So it's great that you're making those strides.
Thank you.
Amanda, I have a question.
Yeah.
This is Bonnie. I'm not familiar with the Cultivate. Is there a website or something that we could look at?
Yeah, I'll put that in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
Another question I have for both pastors Amanda and Vicky, since Superintendent Marty talked about Christian conferencing, wondering if you've ever had an opportunity to practice some of those Christian conferencing guidelines within outreach, especially with staff or volunteers or even with guests. Has that come up at all? We've been able to apply some of the things Marty was sharing about how we resolve conflict and issues.
Hon Honestly, I've only once witnessed behavior getting out of control between two individuals who were ready to throw punches.
Hmm.
Um, and one of them just chose to leave. So we didn't have to intervene and break anything apart. We do have a lot of kids. I had mentioned we have a lot of kids in our neighborhood who, mom or dad are on house arrest, or they're kind of free to roam all day because there's, no one to watch them at home. So we've had to set a lot more boundaries with our young people around behavior. So we if we see an incident or behavior that we don't want to see, we have one particular leader that usually will address it. It's a male, he's a teacher. We say this is not the behavior, this is not how we act here. Like, you are welcome to be here, but we don't hit, we don't yell, we don't swear at one another. This is not what we do here. You're welcome to be here, but if you're not, and if it continues, and we've never had to have somebody leave,
Hmm.
but we just are mindful of the boundaries and the behaviors we expect.
Yeah, and every once in a while you kind of have to yell and say, "Hey, remember you're in a church. You can't talk like that."
Right.
And then everybody laughs and it breaks the tension. But yeah, Carl, I think you're right. I think Marty's number 9 about admitting when you're wrong. I think that works with our guests as well that come in
Mhm.
because sometimes we kind of maybe jump to conclusions about them or whatever. And, it's kind of good to say, hey, we misjudged you. And as Amanda said, yeah, we do everything we possibly can before we kick somebody out, unless they're selling drugs. And then that's just a hard, you got to leave.
Yeah, I know at Broadway, I think the one about listening is really important, and that we've seen that importance of listening to people's stories. That there's lots of places people can go to get food and to get shelter and services where they're just treated as a number, as an inconvenience, and to actually take time to listen to someone's story, to hear about their pain. Like Amanda said, to be present in those meetings and those meals, to be able to hear what they've been through, makes a huge difference. And practicing that. I also know at Broadway, and I imagine at First Northwest, with having upper room residents helping out also, you have people with lived experience. I think probably same for
Yes.
Amanda with people who are unstably housed, helping out. Um, there's still a lot of trauma that people are working through. And it's great to have people who are experiencing that as a part of things, being able to give back. But sometimes they don't have the good skills on how to lead, how to serve, how to help out. And so it's important to listen to some of their hurt and work alongside with them to help them learn how to listen to others also. So it's something that we only want to practice, but we also want to be able to teach others because we don't want this to just be a one-way ministry. We don't want this just to be people who have education, who have resources, who have abundance giving to others. But we want it to be, as you've heard from both Vicky and Amanda, a community where people are giving one to another. But it requires a lot of work and listening and teaching those skills. Yeah, Dan.
I have a
Um,
question about how you have cultivated the population that has come to your facilities. Sorry, I have a loving dog here. Um, I have let's say marketing it to the local community. Is there a way that you have done that, like with social media? Because social media is going to be tough because a lot of those people may not have it. Or do you advertise it? Do you put signs out? I'm just curious of how you've marketed it, kind of. Thank you.
You want to
So
go ahead, Amanda?
yeah, so for Calvary, we whenever we have a community dinner, we make a Facebook event, and that has helped generate a good amount of attendance. Our church sign has scrolling announcements, and some of our there's always the announcement for Saturday morning community breakfast, free food box or free little pantry, I think is what it might actually say, because that's what it used to be called, a free little pantry. That's one of the things that says whenever there's a community dinner, it will scroll through. But honestly, what most of our attendance and participation comes from word of mouth.
yeah.
A lot of our attendees, whether they have spent time in the homeless shelter or just know each other from the streets, for lack of better description, word of mouth is one of our best. I mean, it takes some time to build that, of course, but word of mouth is the best way we have advertisement.
And we're blessed in South Bend because our word of mouth is called Word of Carl. Because this guy is out on the streets. It didn't matter that it was 5 or 8 or 10 below. Carl's out on the streets making contact with folks. He was letting people know what was closed, what was open, where they could go to get warm. And as he mentioned, we serve from 11:30 to 12:30, but we've been opening at 9 a.m. so folks can come in. And then we've been staying until people kind of start to dwindle out themselves, so they can get someplace else where it's warm. But Carl has done just a fantastic job, I think, of keeping the community informed, but doing all these things. We've got a scrolling sign too that does the same thing, that reports. And then we make contact with Hope and the homeless center if like something's going on and we're going to have to be closed or whatever. So, but
The other
thanks,
thing I'll
Carl.
add would be voicemail. I think for a lot of people, even if they're unstably housed, often have access to a phone, even if it's over Wi-Fi. And so using voicemail and your answering machine message is a really helpful way to alert people when there's changes because of the weather or what's being offered. A lot of people are using phones, and so even if they don't have internet access, making sure
Yeah.
your answering message details any changes in what you provide is really helpful also. Good
Well,
question,
we
Dan.
have we
Yeah.
have a program that is housed at our facility called No Kid Hungry, and it's Northwest Indiana Child No Hungry, and they what they do is they reach out to local schools that have uh, uh, the kids that need maybe, and what they call them is buddy bags. And it started out doing 100 kids, and now it's up to doing 1,000 kids. And they've grown out of our space, so now they have to look for a new facility.
Mm.
So the schools are a good source of marketing for us with the word of mouth. Now, I was in advertising for 20 years. And our favorite phrase has always been word of mouth is your best advertising, but creating that word of mouth by outside sources has always been that. Now we are in a phase in our church where we have an electronic sign out front, but it's broken.
Mm.
And so it's going to cost us $12,000 to fix this. And we only have a certain amount of congregation at this time. It's been a rough ride for us for a while, and it's slowly coming back up with a new pastor who's wonderful. So that's why my we have an incredible pantry that feeds people about 18 to 20 families, and in our area that's pretty decent, every 2 weeks. And it's a very nice food pantry. And just sitting here thinking, and I want to compliment everybody because just sitting here thinking about everything you're talking about is reminding me that I think we're concentrating way too much on ourselves at this point. And I think it's now time for us to really be concentrating on the outside. I was involved with Celebrate Recovery for about 10 years, and it's a fantastic program. Unfortunately, I don't have the congregation to build a staff to do a successful version at ours, but I believe it's very well needed in our area. So if I could get some prayers for our church to start doing something, because I have been always in the philosophy of a broken person needs the church. No perfect people should be allowed in our church.
Right.
So, and that's one of the things, but I would like to compliment everybody on their programs. They're fantastic.
Hey,
Yeah.
Thank
Dan,
you.
Thanks.
Dan, remind me, where are you at?
I'm in Crown Point in a town in the outside township. It's Church of the Four Seasons.
Oh,
We're in
okay.
Winfield Township.
Yes.
And we are a congregation. If anybody knows Pastor Nunley, Chris Nunley. He used to
Yes.
be our pastor about 20 years ago, and he was one of the main reasons I came back to church. And we had a congregation at about 400 to 500 people. We're down to a congregation of 40.
Mm.
So, and I'm the youngest one, and I'm 60.
Mm.
Not the youngest one, but I could say I'm probably one of the younger ones. So, it's been a struggle for us over the past, I'd say, 6 or 7 years. We've had some downtimes. So we're trying to build, and I grew up in this church it was back in 1985. I started coming here. And so it's kind of one of my loves. My mother was a mission in Honduras on the island of Roatan for 20 years. And so I have a great role model.
That's great.
So, just yeah, that's kind of where we're at.
Thanks for sharing, Dan.
And Dan, I think there are like tons of grant opportunities that are
Yeah.
available through the conference. And so you might, who's your pastor now?
Our pastor is Pastor Liz Leahy now.
Oh,
She's fantastic.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm learning a lot from her. I've given my first two sermons over the past couple of weeks, and I've been extremely excited just to get back to get this involved right now. And I'd like it to be a full-time thing,
Yeah.
but
I,
I
I
just
would
can't.
I would encourage you to get on the website and to
Okay.
look. Also go to the Heartland Foundation. They're the folks that do a lot of that stuff, and I will bet you that you can at least get some of that money for that sign,
Yeah.
based on an outreach grant or something.
Well, we have, and the reason I focus on that a lot is because our traffic flow past our church is an extremely, we live in a commuting community right outside that travels to Chicago every day, and we've got probably 25,000 cars a day that drive by our facility. And just knowing that our sign could be a great force of communication would be one of the big things to do. So I will definitely look for some of those grants and find someone that can be a good grant writer for us. So that's one of the big keys. So
Yeah, and some of them aren't too difficult to write.
yeah, okay, good.
Dan, this is
Yeah,
Bonnie. I wanted to tell you a couple things what we did with our food pantry. We had a local artist that is a member of our church, and she made a sign that's is like a V sign, and we do put it out on the street. We're kind of like you. We're on a main highway going north,
okay,
and that we put out for every day when our food pantry is open. We usually set it up maybe a half hour before,
that's
and that way,
fantastic.
yeah, that way people can see it, and it didn't cost us anything. She was gracious enough to do that. The other thing, we work very closely with our town hall, and we've taken posters up and put them on their bulletin boards. We do it. We put it in the our post office also, and Facebook. You'd be surprised. I do the client work for United We Stand Ministries of Akron, so I've talked to all these people that are in need for assistance other than food, and almost all of them have a phone. So, about every other month, I go into our food pantry. We do have a Facebook page, and I'm always posting different things on the Facebook page. And I think we're up to almost 400 followers, which we're a town of 1,000 people, but we have two townships here in Fulton County that we service. And every once in a while, I'll go into the food pantry and I'll just make a movie of what's there. I'll just walk around, and then when I go to meetings, oh yeah, we saw your with the other food pantries people in our area, and they'll make a comment. But you'd be surprised how many people do have Facebook. And then when I do talk to clients, I always suggest that they like our Facebook page because I always update things that's going on around the community, along with anything that they'll need to know in reference to the food pantry. We also have a sign. It's heavens, I didn't know it would cost that much to get it fixed. That is a movable sign, and I hope we never have to have that problem. I feel sorry for you because I know people do look at those signs that are moving, and I do know there are lots of grants. I write the grants for our organization, and I don't know if you have any community foundation there or not, but that's we have a Northern Indiana Community Foundation. I don't think they go that far. I know they have like 5 counties, but that's a good thing. And it, like she said, like Vicky said, you can. There are some grants that are pretty easy to write. So we'll pray with you and hope that you can get that fixed.
Thank you, Bonnie. I think years ago, actually, I was at your church.
Oh, really?
My
Okay.
ex my ex-wife lived in Rochester,
Oh, okay.
and
Yeah.
I think she had family that went there, but that was years. But
Okay.
anyways, yeah, I greatly appreciate it. And yeah, well, it's basically to the fact that we have to pretty much replace the sign, and
Right.
that's why it's going to be so expensive.
Yes.
So,
That's too bad.
and being in the sign business over the years, um I've tried talking to some of my past people, and um there's just no way to help us at that point.
Yeah.
So, but anyways, I greatly appreciate it. Thank you so much. You guys are giving me some incredible ideas. Thank you.
That's great.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, thanks, Dan and Bonnie. Other questions that people have for Vicky or Amanda about their outreach or issues you're dealing with? Yeah, go ahead, Anne, if you want to unmute.
I was thinking of another food source. One that we use is Dollar General.
Mm,
If you go down there when they go through their stuff, particularly if they know, that you're needing stuff, they will go through their stuff that they're going to get rid of. They'll go through it and give you stuff that may have one bruised strawberry in it
right. That's
and
good.
give
Good to
you
know.
give you the whole package. And they also will give you medications and stuff that may have expired a month ago and some of that stuff. That's what we use, and they're very generous with us.
Yes, that's right, Ann. We work with ours here in Akron, and there's some paperwork now that you have to fill out, but get to know your manager, and she's entirely. I forgot about that, Ann. That's nice that you brought it up. But yeah, we get a lot. We go once a month, actually, to our local one.
We have a gal in town that works there, and so whenever they do it, or the manager says, uh, get rid of this," she puts it in her car and just brings it over to the church. So we get a delivery once a week at
Oh
least.
my. Oh, that's
Yeah.
good. Yeah.
That's great. Thanks for that. I mean, I can think of $3 generals
Mm,
by Calvary.
Sometimes they ship more than they need. There's
right.
been times when we've gotten milk because
Mm.
they didn't need the milk and they've shipped it and they didn't have any place to put it. And ice cream and stuff like that you can use for your meals.
And that's also a great place to be able to get laundry detergent,
Yeah.
dish soap, those kinds of things. When we were doing flood buckets here, I drove all over, half acre, trying to get, because it was so much cheaper than I could get it anywhere
Yeah.
else. So,
Yeah.
And it shows the importance of relationships again as we build these community networks with other nonprofits and even for-profit places that are looking to get rid of excess or expired stock. That having those relationships and connections makes a huge difference and a huge deal. I knew I would have a caterer that during the pandemic, when they had unused food, they would just contact Broadway directly, and we
Yeah.
would go pick up trays of food that we could then serve the next day in store, and it made a huge difference just because that relationship that we had. I think it was through a swim team, another parent on the swim team that my daughter was on. So those relationships are important. And I just want to bring that back up again when Dan was asking the question about promotion and marketing, that signs are good and flyers are good and Facebook events are good, but ultimately it's going to come down to the relationships. As Amanda and Vicky have both talked about, being present with people, getting to know them, getting your church members there so that they can build relationships and share their lives with people. And again, that's that outgrowth, as Superintendent Marty was talking about, with the personal work that God's doing in our hearts should bubble over and overflow into our relationships with others. And if our church members aren't growing spiritually and experiencing the joyful life of the Spirit, it's going to be hard for them to build connections to people who are being served by the great outreach programs that we do. And so those relationships are so key that that's what's going to cause people to want to grow, to want to attend, to want to grow more spiritually once those felt needs are met.
The mileage
Those
from
relationships are very
Milford,
important.
Indiana to Crown Point, Indiana.
Do you have another question, Bonnie?
Yes. No,
Okay, great. All right. Any other questions for Vicky or Amanda before I'm going to share my screen again? Uh, so we've heard about both First Northwest and Elkhart Calvary. I just want to mention this will be on the link that I'll add in the chat. Broadway, former church for Ann and myself. Their website also has a lot of great information. You can learn more about their United Way grant they got that is funding Kim's position in part that Vicky mentioned, about all the different programs that they have, their annual report that's very in depth. all the different programs and ministries that go on there. What's helpful about that, you'll notice, is there's both a way for people to donate directly if they want to financially support the ministries. There's an easy link for that. And there's also a daily needs list also for things like what kind of food they need for breakfast, what they're running low of in their food pantry, what are the clothing items that they need, other things like bus passes that people need, listing that so if people want to buy actual items for things or do that as sort of like a fundraiser or a drive. They know what that is available also, and so it's a great helpful website to learn more about their programs. So that's on the list. As we start wrapping up the conversation, I just want to give a chance for Pastors Vicki and Amanda to reflect it all on grounding our work theologically and practically, and the examples that they have. The one that comes to my mind that I often use when I'm guest preaching now is the parable of the Good Samaritan. That we think about someone who is in crisis and is in need, and how we have to take time to have compassion. And we see the example that Jesus says about people who are too busy, too concerned about their own personal holiness or position in society to stop and care for someone who is in crisis. And so it means we have to take time to stop and connect to people and get them the resources that they need. And you see that with the Samaritan who not only heals and bandages the person, but then transports them and makes sure they get the long-term care that they need. That's a true picture of what it looks like to love someone and be their neighbor and come alongside of them. But the challenge that I often share with that parable, though, is what happens if people keep getting attacked by robbers again and again. The Samaritans are going to get exhausted having to keep bandaging and transporting people. And so we have to think more broadly sometimes that if there are issues with lack of affordable housing, with unfair wages, with pollution that's keeping people from able to grow their own crops, what are the larger systemic issues that might be keeping people from thriving and causing the difficulties that we see again and again? We have to be able to address those and work on those. But I really rely on the parable of the Good Samaritan as a model of the work that I do. Pastor Vicky or Amanda, other thoughts that you have about what grounds your work theologically and practically?
I think for me, it's a Sermon on the Mount. Whatever you did for the
Mm,
least of these, you did for me. And I think sometimes we have congregations that say, gosh, when did we see the homeless? When did we see the hungry? When did we see when, Jesus's comment also is the poor will always be with us. And, we are our charge is to care for the least and the lost and the broken. And especially in these times right now, I think, Carl, you had said when we started out, or maybe it was Marty, that, I mean, we're living in such times right now where we are so divided, and it's us and them instead of us understanding that we are all God's children.
mhm. Amen.
I also like the Matthew 25. Um, One other piece I would add is, we're doing this as the church. There are other agencies that do this because they are good people that want to help. But we are doing this as a response to our faith. We love God, and so we love neighbor. And this is how we're putting faith into action. And it just comes back to we are centered in Christ. Christ is, we live and move and do that. We act from Christ being the center of it. And that is the source through which we can offer hope. We can offer reconciliation and restoration. It's grounded in our love of God. And because we love God, we love our neighbors.
Amen. Uh, Vicky, Marty also talked about these challenging times, as Vicky mentioned, and the importance of crossing divides. And we see those in lots of different ways. One that I see that I get a lot in my city role now is people who will call to complain about the unhoused. Why are there people tenting in the city? Why are people allowed to panhandle? Why are we building shelters for people? There's a lot of negativity that I hear from people who wonder why we're doing things and why there are places like First Northwest and Broadway that are serving this community, and why are they giving away things for free, and why don't people just get a job? And so I hear a lot of that negativity, and it's a chance to really share about the basics, that things that we can provide for people and say that we have an abundance so we can share the basics. But then also talking about trauma is one of the things that I focus on to try to bridge the divide and for people to try to understand the trauma that for many people it goes back to their childhood, that how they were treated by their parents and guardians growing up has often caused problems with why they are struggling with mental health, why they have substance use to try to forget the pain that they have been through, why they didn't learn good coping strategies and dysfunction with handling finances or maintaining a job. It often goes back to childhood trauma and to try to develop some empathy for people as a way to bridge those divides and to be able to listen to people's concerns, their complaints, but then try to educate them on the hardships that people have gone through when they find themselves unhoused, especially chronically, and to have some empathy for them. I don't know, Vicky or Amanda, other things that you have done to try to bridge some of the divide that you see in our society today.
Yeah, and I think I would love to tell those folks, why don't you come down and volunteer at Broadway? Why
Mm,
don't you come and volunteer with us? Why don't you, you know, come and make peanut butter and jelly sandwiches every week? Um, because you see a whole different side of it. I mean, I always thought I was an empathetic person and certainly very social justice minded because I'm United Methodist. Until I'm working in the soup kitchen week after week after week and talking with folks and hearing stories and listening and understanding that many of these people are the same people that are sitting up in my sanctuary on Sunday mornings that are one health crisis, one job loss away from having to
Mhm.
be downstairs on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday because they don't have any food. And, people just need to understand that. And so it is,
yeah,
it is
it
frustrating.
could
And I
happen to any
think
one of us.
that's right. And I think we need to keep telling that story over and over
Mm,
again and using Matthew 25 and the Samaritan story over and over again.
Yeah, I would agree that there what I see and what I hear is grief in a
Yes.
lot of the people who attend a lot on our neighbors. They've gone through traumatic things. They've had loss after loss, and a lot of it is unprocessed grief. And that's the slow long-term work that we can't make quick changes. We can't fix them either. Um, but we can listen. This is my first time in what I would consider an urban ministry setting. And the things I've heard um, blows my mind and breaks my heart. And
Yes.
it builds compassion. And as Vicky said, we are all one severe illness, one thing away from being in the same place. And so we have to come from a place of empathy um, with our neighbors.
yeah.
And I think
Can
the
I,
other thing
can I,
that we also have to realize is that there is compassion fatigue.
Mhm.
Mm,
And for places like Broadway and Amanda's church and my church and Dan's church, for those of us that are out serving, um, man, it gets to you, and compassion fatigue is real.
Mhm.
yeah. Go ahead, Stephanie. Do you have a comment?
They did. Actually, it's really, I didn't realize I would be in this group with all of you, Vicky, but you have to know, and I'm sorry, I might get emotional. My family was just one cancer diagnosis,
Mm,
and I didn't realize who you were until about maybe 5 minutes ago. But you helped my family a year ago. My husband came in on Tuesday morning, and our electric was going to get shut off. And, we were thriving. We had three kids. My first husband died in 2010, and I met Mark, and we had two more children. I was diagnosed with cancer at 39,
mm,
and it wrecked us in all ways. And the reason why I stepped into Granger Good Shepherd was because of the South Bend UMC that helped our family. So I'm sorry. I, d- I don't want to make this about me. And I'm not going to show my face because I didn't do my hair. I woke up at 9:30 and I'm not I'm not but yeah, I just can't believe how full circle. This whole thing is I started volunteering at the warming shelter overflow at Grace and have met so many really dynamic and cool people, and I feel like I should have been a Methodist my whole life. I am sad I just got here at 42, you know. But yeah, so I guess you can't imagine what your reach has.
Well, and what you don't know is whether you were in a United Methodist church or not, you've probably been a United Methodist your entire life because you have that inside you. So just
Yes.
thank you for sharing that story. I am vaguely, it's coming back to me a little bit at a time. And we just, and this is good because sometimes we help people and then we never ever see them again. And that's not a bad thing. But sometimes it is to know that we are full circle and those good things do happen. Thank you.
Yeah. Thanks, Stephanie, for sharing some of your story. We've talked a little bit about finances already and places to look for grants, and this connects also with the compassion fatigue that was just talked about. And so I think one thing that I wanted to say about finances is recognizing that there are lots more people who are in need. Any one of us is on the edge of losing our housing for various reasons. And also recognizing there's limits then to what we can provide. And I know that we dealt with this at Broadway with the food pantry, that sometimes we had to acknowledge that the shelves would be bare by the end of the week because there were so many people in need. We did our shopping at the food bank, at Cultivate, at Milford, and it still wasn't enough for the need that we saw. And to be okay with the position of saying, this is what we have to offer. And when it runs out, it runs out. And that's just one of the things I wanted to mention when we talk about outreach is that we have limited supplies and limited resources, and the need is greater than it ever has been for lots of different reasons. And so when we think about our finances, to recognize that at some points we will run out and to be okay with that. And I think, again, theologically, to trust that God can provide in other ways, and that God will renew us and restore us to be able to give again next week or next month as things become available. Vicki or Amanda, any other comments on finances and this new landscape that you wanted to make?
I just think we need to be constantly on the lookout um, for monies that are out there because I think they are, and I think people want to give them, but we kind of have to pursue that and look and talk and to share our story about what it is that we're doing. Because there's people with a lot of money out there that would love to help support the things that we're all doing. So that's my comment.
Yeah, I don't really have anything in addition to add. It is challenging to know like sometimes the food box is empty and most of the
Mhm.
times it's not. But sometimes people come and it is empty. And it's hard to be okay with you don't have anything to give, but that's part of our work is knowing our limits and we can't be everything for everybody. It's good to know what community partners and other people around offer, much to the map and the things in South Bend you shared earlier. Um, so it's helpful to know what partners, what your other churches, whether Methodist or not, are
Mhm.
doing so that you can point people in other directions if you need to, but we can't always help everyone.
Yeah. And then the last topic I just wanted to mention, think about outreach. I grew up in California, in the Bay Area, very much a post-Christian society, and we're seeing more and more of that across our country, where it used to be because you believed in certain truths that you then belonged to a faith community and you behaved the way you were expected to. But that really switches in a post-Christian society where it really starts with behavior, that we have people who want to help others, that want to get connected and serve. And that's often the entry point for people then moving to belonging as they build relationships and eventually believing and accepting the Christian truths and what we believe as a United Methodist often comes at the end. And so outreach can be a great evangelistic tool and a way for us to connect with people who have a heart to serve a meal, to stock a food box, to help out with recovery efforts. But that is often a great way that we can connect people who want to be a part and want to act But again, it's where it's so important to have those relationships with people so that we can create that sense of belonging and to firmly know as followers of Jesus, what is it about our faith that is driving us, as Amanda said, to know that it's the view about whether it's hope or transformation, whether it's the personal forgiveness you've experienced or the different graces that Marty has talked about. Those are all things that we need to do that inner work so that we are clear, so we can help point people to the source of what it is that is causing us to do the outreach and work that we are doing. Vicki or Amanda, any comments? Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah. So for me, here in Elkhart, I will not name this other ministry. It's not Methodist. They have they have a meal, but in order to eat at the meal, you have to arrive at a certain time and you have to sit through a sermon or worship service in order to
Mm,
receive said meal. And that feels like making the gospel a hostage situation. I don't,
yeah.
I personally don't think that is an effective way to share the
Nope.
gospel. If you're not meeting someone's like physical need, they will not be in the place to receive the gospel you're attempting to share. I think of Jesus feeding the multitude. He didn't say, "Oh, no, no, one more teaching and then they can eat their bread and fish." Jesus had compassion and fed them because he saw they were hungry. That does mean that meeting their spiritual needs is our next step and a growing edge for us. We've met their physical needs. How can we, meet their spiritual needs? But to this reversed behave, belong, believe, um, if they consistently feel safe and welcome and cared for, that makes them more receptive to feel like they can take the next step in their faith. And a lot of our neighbors would identify Calvary as their home church even if they never set foot here in worship, they know this is a place where they are safe and they can belong. So that's what came to mind when you brought that up, Carl.
Yeah. And I think you're right. I mean, we have people that never come to a worship service, um, but they know if they need a pastor, they call. If they need a bill paid, they call. And I'm happy to be that pastor and to be that place and not to say, oh, well, you have to worship 5 times before we'll, allow you to seek help from us. So yeah, it's disgusting to me, but that's okay. We grew up different. We grew up as United Methodists, so we know that's not right.
And the last thing I wanted to share from the Google Doc I'll put into chat. Stephanie mentioned Grace United Methodist here in South Bend has been doing overflow. Um, I think we're at 2 weeks now straight, just about, of them providing that, and it's been a wonderful way where church members have been providing snacks, so there's food on hand. Some of those members, other people from the community, other congregations like Stephanie, are coming to do 4-hour shifts. We have 3 4-hour shifts for a total of 12 hours. I'll be doing one later tonight. Um, and then we have a separate group that is transporting people from our homeless shelter. Once they're reaching capacity, they transport them over to the church. The main shelter serves about 100 people, and they're reaching capacity where some nights people have been having to sit in chairs all night because they're out of beds and there's not even space for mats on the floor. And so for Grace to provide additional 15 beds has made a huge difference, especially in these extreme cold temperatures, give people a place to sleep, to make sure people are able to stay inside and stay warm and get comfortable. But it takes a lot of people all working together, and it's been a huge partnership that we had. And so that link is there. And then just as we talk about systemic issues, I just want to raise awareness that our state legislature is looking to criminalize homelessness and make it illegal for people to sit or sleep in any public space across the state and require municipalities, whether cities or counties, to either fine, a ticket, or even eventually arrest people. And so I've linked there. Prosperity Indiana is a advocacy group that is raising awareness about that issue. And that bill passed out of committee in the Senate this past week and is headed to the House. And it was brought up last year a couple times and was thankfully defeated, but there's more energy to try to pass again this year. So one example of some of the systemic injustices that we're trying to address together as a community. Um, As we get ready to wrap up, Pastors Vicky or Amanda, any closing words or exhortations you want to give?
Follow Jesus.
Amen.
And I would just say it doesn't really matter the size of your church.
No.
You know,
Mm.
you can do something. You don't have to do all the things. If one of the things we've shared today really struck your heart and resonates with you, pursue that. It doesn't have to be all the things, but it can be one thing that makes a difference.
Wonderful. Well, thanks everyone for being a part of this outreach discussion. We appreciate the work that you're doing. Again, this is being recorded, so this will be on the INUMC website if you want to share with others. I just put the link to that Google Doc in the chat, and we'll make sure Eva also emails that out later. So if you want to get all the links to things we talked about, do that. My thanks again to Pastor Vicky Van Neville from First Northwest United Methodist Church in South Bend and Pastor Amanda Mosing from Elkhart Calvary. Thank you both for sharing and for the ongoing work that you're doing. Have a great rest of your day, everyone. Take care.
Thanks, everyone.
All right, I'm done with mine. You're still muted.
Sorry, I was working on, I don't know what's recording.
Yeah, I don't know if it started automatically
Yeah, so
again
I was
or if
looking at
that's
something else and I had a